were fanned out and you begged to come to your house after you heard all these mixtapes. That's how you got in. You was so cool. And we was like, yo, Jomo's a nice guy. Mace like, yo, I think I'll teach him how to rap.
Mace taught me how to rap, and Cam always made sure I was on every single album he had. He's like, boy, once you figure out how to rap the same way you act in these streets, it's gonna work for you. Just keep going. And that's all so I always gotta give credit to where credit is due. There would be no Jim Jones if it wasn't for them guys.
You're from the Bronx, bro. You are not from Harlem. Why do you keep thinking that you are from Harlem, bro? You are not from Harlem. I did not grow up with you, man. I did not grow up with you. Contrary to what you believe, never needed nowhere to stay. You act like that couch. You was a fan. You begged us. You are a fan.
What if everything you thought you knew about Jim Jones was straight up backwards? What if the guy bragging about building Mace and Camron's careers was never the mastermind, but just a loud fan who begged his way into the crew? What if the truth Jim's been running from is that he actually owes everything to them? Back when Dipset ran the game, when diplomatic immunity had the whole culture in a chokehold. Yeah, that era. What if I told you the whole movement was built on smoke and mirrors, and the one yelling loudest about his role was just a background dude who got lucky? Now the truth is spilling out, and Jim's doing everything he can to cling to what little shine he's got left. But how long can you keep faking it before the same people who put you on pull the plug? Get ready, because one of hip-hop's biggest lies is about to get ripped apart. This culture has always moved by one rule: respect is earned, not handed out. You can't just claim turf you never grew up on. You can't just flip your origin story when it suits you. And you definitely don't get to jack credit from the ones who really put in the work. Jim Jones has been breaking every rule in the book for 2 decades, and now the very people who helped build his name are stepping forward to tear it all down.
What's the chances of you, Cam, and Mace getting back?
I don't think it's really gonna happen. We two different type of people. And always have. Competitive nature always been first before friendship. Remember, Cam, my man. It's not.
So it's not you.
I took the position of my position. Cam is my partner. I'm not his artist. I was the CEO of Diplomats. I made Diplomats with him. I was with him for every bit of his journey. I held him down. I took that position of holding him down.
Can you believe the nerve? Jim Jones really out here claiming he was the CEO of Dipset? Like he was the one holding down Mace and Camron? That's not just twisting the truth. That's straight up identity theft on a legendary Harlem level. Saying you built something you never even laid a brick on? That's not just lying. It's a major sign of disrespect. And in places like Harlem, that kind of talk can get real serious, real fast. The wild part? He says it all with confidence, like he really believes it. That's what happens when you repeat a fake story so much, you start treating it like gospel. But here's the thing, when you build your whole name off someone else's grind, the real ones eventually show up to take what's theirs.
I never needed nowhere to stay. You act like your couch. You was a fan. You begged us. You are a fan.
Just like that, the vibe dropped to ice cold. Camron didn't just push back. He completely shredded Jim's whole story like it was nothing. You were our fan. 4 simple words and boom, 2 decades of carefully built lies went up in smoke. This ain't about bruised egos or drama. This is about the real line between creators and clingers, between the ones who built the wave and the ones who just surfed it for shine. Cam didn't just clap back, he laid it all out with no mercy. He made it very clear what lane Jim belongs in, and it sure ain't the one he's been pretending to run.
You not from none of that. So you gonna sit around and act like you've been around all this Harlem shit. You ever see somebody from Harlem try to act like they from Harlem so bad that you gotta keep saying, I'm from Harlem? Harlem know who's from Harlem. You don't have to keep saying you from Harlem.
This is where Cam really breaks it down. He's not just talking, he's unpacking the whole mindset behind Jim's desperation. See, people who ain't built nothing real end up starving for validation. They don't ride with successful folks out of loyalty. It's fear. Fear of getting exposed as hollow. Jim's whole image? It's been stitched together with other people's street credit. And now that the cracks are showing, he's out here clinging to lies like his career depends on it, 'cause it does. Nobody calls your blood. Well, guess what? That tab just got slapped on the table, and it's time to pay up.
Who was fanned out and you begging to come to your house after you heard all these mixtapes? That's how you was so cool. And we was like, yo, Jomo's a nice guy. Mace like, yo, I think I'll teach him how to rap. Mace actually taught you how to rap. Literally. He taught you how to rap.
And there it is, the moment that shatters everything. Jim Jones didn't co-found Dipset. He didn't discover Camron or Mace. He didn't build no empire. The truth? He heard their mixtapes heating up and literally begged his way into their circle, just like a fanboy who showed up at the right time. This bombshell flips Jim's entire legacy on his head. Every feature, every hit, every moment he ever claimed as his own, all of it traces back to that one desperate move. A fan who talked his way into the spotlight and rode two rising legends' wave like it was his own. But here's what really hits hard. For anybody who knows street politics, begging is the worst kind of foul. Real ones don't beg, they build. Real bosses don't leech, they lead. And right now, Jim ain't looking like either one. So the real question ain't whether he deserves Dipset credit, it's how long can someone ride off someone else's hustle before the real architects come through to tear the whole thing down. Out here, respect is the currency, and Jim just overdrafted his whole account. When the same people who made you decide to unmake you, that's a level of takedown you don't come back from. But it gets worse, way worse. Jim's been pushing these made-up stories for so long, we've got receipts. His own words from back in the day are surfacing, and they completely expose the lies he's telling today. You know what separates real street legends from the fake ones? Consistency. Real ones don't need to adjust their stories, they lived it. The fake ones flip their version depending on the room they're in, and eventually, those lies start crashing into each other. Jim's been rewriting his come-up tale for 2 whole decades, but guess what? The internet never forgets. And when your own mouth from the past starts destroying your present-day lies, that's not just embarrassing, that's career obliteration.
Bring up the clip.
Mace helped me actually learn how to rap.
Mace taught me how to rap. Mace actually showed me, he was the first person to show me how to rap.
Mace actually sat me down and showed me the magic to rap.
We taught you how to rap. How you ran the whole organization. How you made Diplomat. Wait, make none of this up. You was a fan. I put you down. Because you had a free crib and you was a nice guy. That's how you got down originally.
Listen to Camron line up the perfect shot. He's not just throwing random accusations. He's about to bring out evidence. And in the streets, when somebody says they got receipts, that means they're ready to end careers, fast. Cam's not bluffing. The way he talks, calm, cool, confident, you can tell he knows what's about to drop. And when you got somebody's own confession on tape, you don't need to argue, shout, or spin it. All you gotta do is press play. What Cam's about to show, it's gonna crush whatever credibility Jim thought he still had.
Mace taught me how to rap, and Cam always made sure I was on every single album he had. He was like, boy, once you figure out how to rap, the same way you act in these streets is gonna work for you. Just keep going. And that's all so I always gotta give credit where credit is due. There would be no Jim Jones if it wasn't for them guys.
Let that sink all the way in. The same guy who's been out here yelling that he was the CEO, the muscle, the glue holding Dipset together, just admitted on camera that Mace taught him how to rap, not the other way around. Jim didn't build Mace, Mace built Jim. This ain't just a slip-up, it's a full-blown confession. With his own words, Jim just backed up everything Cam and Mace been saying for years. And here's the coldest part. When your so-called enemy doesn't even have to take you down because you do it to yourself, that's the realest kind of street justice there is.
Come through. Why? Why are we going to Jomo's house? Cool. One day, I'm leaving Mace's house on the west side, going back to the east side. I stop at Jomo's house. His grandmother died, God bless her dead. And he had a free crib. So yeah, I would bring some a little crack maybe. I'd be at everybody's house though. I love my grandparents. My grandparents were strict. I stayed at Duke the God house. I stayed at Mace Makuta. I stayed at her. I stayed at a bunch of houses. I never needed nowhere to stay.
Jim ain't just been lying about Dipset. He's been flipping the whole script. Even the basic stuff about his friendship with Cam. He's out here claiming Cam was crashing at his spot like he was just some broke artist, when the truth was nowhere near that. This is what happens when someone starts believing their own hype. They get a little success, and suddenly every memory gets edited. They're the hero, the boss, the one making all the plays. But when the people who actually lived through it are still around, those lies turn into weapons that cut you down. The wildest part? Jim can't even fight back right now. How you gonna argue with your own voice on camera, admitting Mace taught you the game? How you gonna claim you built someone when you already told the world you learned everything from them? And here's where it gets even crazier. While Jim's out here tripping over his own lies, the folks who really watch Dipset come up, they've been sitting back, watching all this mess play out. And now, they're getting ready to speak. What they're about to reveal is gonna flip everything we thought we knew about who really held the power behind the scenes. Because when the lies crumble and the smoke clears, the truth always comes from the ones who were really there.
Cam and Jim was like this, super tight. Mace wasn't even in the picture. I don't know Mace like that. You know what I'm saying? Every time I seen Mace, it's been a mutual, you know what I'm saying, respect there. So, you know, the Diplomats was already a name they had. You know what I'm saying? I don't sit there and claim I made the Dipset. That's not something I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? I made Dipset though, the two. Yeah, I did that.
When Joel Santana says everything was cool at first, he's setting the stage, showing how solid things were before it all fell apart. Peep how calm and steady his tone is. That's how real ones move, no need to flex or hype anything up. They just drop straight facts and let the truth do the heavy lifting.
And I know because I seen it, I was there. I was at Jim album release party, and everybody was over there with Jim, and Cam was standing over here with like 3 or 4 people just looking on and couldn't believe that Jim is the guy. And that always stood with me.
Now here's where things get even messier. Choke No Joke steps in and confirms something that throws a wrench in the whole narrative. People really did work under Jim. He did have some real pull in the Dipset structure. So this ain't just a case of a total fraud, it's deeper. Jim had a little power, but he couldn't handle the limits of that power. Instead of staying in his lane, he started stretching the truth, trying to flip his role into something it never was. He wasn't some powerless nobody, but he definitely wasn't the CEO either. Jim was more like middle management, trying to rewrite himself as the founder.
There's no Dipset without Jim. Jim is the gangbanger of the crew. Cam is not a blood, but the set, it comes from the gang, right? All the gang all ran under Jim.
Right.
All of the muscle was Jim. That wasn't Cam. So Jim put he stood front line for anything in regards to Cam, and then he put Dipset in front of Cam.
Here comes the quote that's about to blow up the comments section. Choke No Joke just said there wouldn't be a Dipset without Jim, and that he was the muscle behind it all. But before Jim's crew starts popping bottles, let's break down what that really means. Being the muscle, that don't make you the mastermind. Just cause you're essential to the grind doesn't mean you created the vision. Jim definitely played a key role, but his lane was protection, presence, and pressure. He wasn't the architect, he was the enforcer. And there's a huge gap between being valuable and being in charge. What's happening right now is the split into 2 clear camps, those close to Cam and Mace, and those who witnessed Jim's come up firsthand, like Santana and Choke No Joke. They ain't blindly defending him, they're backing the parts they saw with their own eyes. But this ain't just about loyalty, it's psychological warfare now. Both sides are spinning partial truths. Cam and Mace are downplaying Jim's real work to shut down his inflated claims. Meanwhile, Jim's people are overemphasizing his role to kill off the just a fan narrative. Somewhere in the middle, that's where the real story sits. But in the streets, perception hits harder than facts. And right now, Jim is losing that perception battle bad. Here's what's wild about street power plays. When everybody's grinding together, loyalty stays tight. But the moment someone starts to shine brighter than the rest, that's when envy starts creeping in. And what's coming next is gonna reveal exactly who's been holding on to jealousy this whole time.
Jim started to grow as an artist. And as he started to grow as an artist, he started moving from standing behind Cam to he started standing next to Cam. And then it got to a point where he stood in front of Cam, built the animosity. And by the time Ballin hit, Cam had a gang of animosity. And I know because I seen it, I was there.
Choke No Joke just flipped the whole story, saying Cam was the one who couldn't handle Jim's success. But before you start taking that as the truth, you gotta peep what's really going on. Choke's got personal beef with Cam that goes way back. This dude nearly got into a physical fight with Cam just for showing love to Jim's mixtape. That says a lot about where his head's at. When someone gets that triggered over you praising their ex-homie, that's not about loyalty, it's about spite. Choke ain't just backing Jim because he respects him. He's riding with him to get back at Cam.
Jim was the muscle, and Juelz was under that wing too of the muscle. He's Cam's partner, but he's taking a step back to play the muscle. If it was beef, Juel ain't gonna be front line. I have to go get through Jim, then Dipset to get to Cam, and then probably to get to Juelz. Right. You know what I'm saying? Juelz ain't standing in front of Jim, and Juelz ain't standing in front of Cam.
Now Choke's out here painting Jim as the protector, the muscle who supposedly kept Cam safe. But let's not ignore the timing of all this noise. Jim Jones just dropped his new album, At the Church Steps, in February 2025. And now, out of nowhere, all this old Dipset drama is back in the spotlight? Sounds way too convenient to be random. When your career needs a boost, digging up old beef is the fastest way to get folks talking. And who better to help stir the pot than Choke No Joke, a guy who already got his own axe to grind with Camron. Perfect storm for a rewrite mission.
At the end of the day, Jim just was smart enough to do it quicker. He saw his moment. He saw his moment, and he saw that 50 had a platform at the time that was, bigger than ours. To perform a song which was the biggest song out right now in front of a crowd that we are not normally in front of. Why is it cool to see Cam and 50 now, but it wasn't cool to see Jim and 50 then?
Santana breaks down the whole 50 Cent situation. But here's what really speaks volumes. Jim was so thirsty for solo recognition that he broke the most basic street rule: loyalty during war. While Dipset was beefing with G-Unit, Jim stepped on stage with the enemy. That ain't business, that's betrayal, straight up. He couldn't take playing second to Cam any longer, so he made the kind of move that shattered their brotherhood for good. That's not how someone solid moves. That's how someone moves when they're drowning in envy and trying to force a glow up. Jim wasn't some loyal rider who got done dirty. He was the hype man who couldn't handle being in the background and burned the whole thing down trying to become the main act. And here we are, 2 decades later, and he's still pressed about it. Now he's out here recruiting anyone with a chip on their shoulder to help rewrite the whole story, like we all forgot what really went down.
Yeah, Jim is from the Bronx and he came to Harlem. Stay in the war. Like, Jim it's like battling. It's like rap. Jim, whatever, but they wasn't. They was on platforms. And Jim said what he said. I think what he said, something about inviting him to his, so he said, he said, they on my dick, right? That's something that's serious. Cam is a lyricist. He's gonna make you feel any type of stupidity way that's possible.
Even Freaky Zeke, who's been trying to keep it cool and play neutral, admits this beef wasn't that deep at first. But once outside voices started poking and pushing, that's when everything spun out of control. And who's really winning by keeping the drama alive? The one whose name only pops when the past gets dragged up. When somebody's been exposed and got no real defense left, they start reaching for the dirtiest tools. Threats, sneak disses, and personal jabs become their go-to moves. Jim Jones is about to show the world exactly what desperation looks like when the smoke clears and the lies don't hit no more. This is what happens when the truth starts closing in fast.
You don't want to take it that route because they got some genuine love for you. You keep going on and on and on. Every that put hands on you or you get to take you cool with them. They do something to put pressure on you. You sit there and work it out. But when niggas got a little genuine heart for you and all that, cool, that's the pattern. If they don't put hands on you, then you can keep going on and on. But who do this, you cool with, and then and sophisticatedly, you keep going on and on.
Listen closely. Camron is tearing down Jim's street credibility piece by piece. And this ain't just personal drama anymore. This is Cam exposing a pattern that shows who Jim really is underneath the image. Cam says it clear, Jim's got no code, no self-respect, and zero loyalty to anybody except his own need to stay in the spotlight. It's not beef, it's a character check, and Jim's failing hard.
As much as you try to degrade my character for years and push me under the bus and say, I ain't start this and I ain't do that, and you started Pink, and you ever hear me talk about when you ran on me when BMF pulled up? When you ran in the hotel, they chased you to the beach. But at the end of the day, I don't be out there pumping. They chased you to the beach in the sand. You was getting wet from the water, from the ocean. I don't pump that.
This one hits hard, because it crushes the whole image Jim's been pushing for years. All that tough talk, that muscle of the crew energy, that street rep he's built his name on, Cam just smashed it with a single story. And the wild part, Cam says he's got witnesses ready to back it up. That macho persona, gone in a flash.
You know why? Because the revolution was televised. I'm here. That's why I gotta work like that. That's why I'm here. The revolution was televised. What you talking about? And I'll wrap it up real quick with this, because I'll be here for an hour. We gotta stop tricking freedom, bro.
Camron ain't even mad anymore. He's straight up bored. And when someone don't see you as a threat, but just a nuisance, that's the coldest kind of disrespect there is. Cam's basically letting it be known. Jim ain't even on his radar now. He's moved on, leveled up, and Jim's still stuck trying to stir up drama for attention.
Business out there, none of that type of shit. I'm not that type of talk down. I don't care know what I do. You heard? And they know what I've done. And they could dance around it all they with that joking, but they know upset is gonna be a real problem. And I can tell you about times that I did get upset. And I can tell you about times that they don't want me to talk about. You heard? The both of them. You dig? Like, this game, they can't play with me too much. I give them the floor to do that because that serves me no purpose. I got too much shit to do.
And now we get Jim's response to getting completely exposed: threats. When you got no real defense, when your story's been torn apart, when your credibility's in shambles, the last card you play is intimidation. Jim's out here talking about exposing Mace and Cam's secrets, but peep what he ain't doing. He's not denying one single thing they've accused him of. No pushback, no proof, just deflection and drama. Classic move when the truth hits too hard.
He need to go on a diet. He need to get his life together. He need to go to the doctor and get a physical. He looked terrible, bad body, back look big around the neck, waist look crazy. I'm body shaming his. You heard? He need to go get on the treadmill, do some push-ups, do something. You heard? Especially for playing with me.
And when the threats fall flat, Jim switches gears to body shaming. He's literally telling Mace to hit the gym like that's gonna fix anything. This is what it looks like when a grown man runs out of real ammo and starts throwing weak jabs straight out of a middle school playbook. Jim's out here thinking that clowning Mace's appearance is some kind of win. That just shows how low he's really fallen. This ain't gangster, this ain't street code, this is pure desperation from someone who knows deep down he already lost the war.
The point of anything, I think, when people put negative energy in the light, people just run with it. You know, social media is not about anything positive. You know what I mean? It's about going viral, catching people's attention and things like that. You dig? So I try not to feed into that because I know there's a big reality. There's a big difference between the two. You know what I mean? But even though I gotta live in the truth for business-wise and things like that, but for the most part, I try to stay away from all.
The irony here is unreal. Jim's out here saying he don't take Cam's responses seriously, claiming they're just chasing clout and trying to go viral. But let's keep it real. Who's been doing interviews with XXL, Cam Capone, and every platform that'll put a mic in front of him? That's right, Jim Jones. The same guy accusing others of clout chasing is out here on a full-blown press run, doing everything he can to stay in the spotlight.
Sit here and do a discography, my brother. It's a little bit too much for me. And you ain't pay enough for that. So if you got some other questions you want to ask, or you could erase all this, send you your money back. I understand what's going on and the plight of everything that's going on, and people want to know the history, but this ain't the way that you're not going to be able to get the whole Jim Jones or Jomo story for that. What you did, I thought this was some regular questions. Seemed like you're trying to get everything up to every point, and that's not going to happen right now. So if you want to ask some questions, I'm cool with that. But
And this right here, the most revealing moment yet. When the interviewer tries to dig deeper into the beef with Mace and Camron, Jim goes silent. The same dude who's been talking tough, throwing threats and running his mouth suddenly has nothing to say when asked for real details. That's what happens when your whole story's built on smoke and mirrors. The second someone asks the real questions, the whole narrative starts crumbling. Jim's bold when he's steering the convo, but the second someone else takes the wheel, he's stuck. No answers, no facts, just awkward silence. And what you're about to see is the full mental unraveling of a man who's been living in a lie for so long that the truth itself feels like his worst enemy.
Then you send them on dummy missions and trick them out their freedom. Max is doing 75, I know he well. Jaja just wanted to be a rapper. Jaja got 10 years, man. We don't know where Jeter at. Stro is just missing. I don't know what the Stro. Slicey, 12 years. His godson, that was 13 years old, 8 years. Shotty, he was trying to be 12 years.
Listen to Camron drop the final verdict. At this point, it's not even about personal beef anymore. It's about exposing a pattern that follows Jim everywhere he goes. Cam lays it out clear. Every artist who links up with Jim ends up worse off than when they started. That ain't leadership. That's leech behavior. He's not building folks up. He's draining their momentum to keep himself afloat. But here's the part that really stings. Cam reveals Jim's been on this negative press mission against him and Mace for over 10 years. This ain't new drama. It's obsession. A man stuck in the past because that was the last time he felt important. Jim can't move forward because the past is the only place where he ever truly mattered.
What's your reaction when Camron brought up all these old stories and everything about you?
I laugh, man. I got this thing, man. People laugh at the lies, but the truth always hurt. You know, lies are more entertaining. I've never been one in my life to care about clearing up no rumors. Like, that shit just takes time out my day from making money. I know who I am. I'm very comfortable in my skin. I stand 10 toes down on everything I believe in. I don't change my pivot, and everybody knows that.
The irony is too thick to ignore. Jim's out here saying he don't care about rumors, claiming he's focused on getting money and doesn't have time for drama. But who's been hopping on interviews with XXL, Cam Capone, and every platform that'll listen? Jim Jones. The same man claiming he's chasing bags is really chasing attention, riding a press tour fueled by old Dipset drama just to stay in the convo. But this ain't just some Harlem trio beefing over the past. This is bigger. It's about authenticity in hip-hop. It's the clash between builders and leeches, creators and opportunists, those who earned respect, and those who borrowed it and tried to pass it off as their own. Jim Jones's whole journey, it's a cautionary tale, a warning about what happens when your identity is built on borrowed shine. Camron and Mace didn't just win the beef, they exposed the game. They pulled the mask off a man who's been hiding in plain sight for 20 years. And here's the wildest part, they didn't even have to dig. Jim buried himself using his own words, his own contradictions, and his own ego. That's not just a loss, that's a full-blown collapse. If you're rocking with this breakdown, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe for more real talk. Drop your thoughts below. Who's really in the wrong here? And as always, see you on the next one.